Hello and welcome to some more Checkmate Patterns in this video. So one of the quickest ways to improve your chess is to just solve many tactical problems, but don't just do them once. Make sure you do a series of problems nice and slow the first time, and then you go through them again and you go through the series of puzzles multiple times and try and solve them more quickly each time. If you go through them about 7 times, it'll help cement more of those patterns into your long-term memory. I'll try and do maybe 20 puzzles here, depending how long they take. Here we have a knight that just moved forward here, attacking our queen, and also adding, some pressure here to this knight along with this battery. A lot of pressure building up against the black pieces here, but it is black's turn to move. And when you're trying to solve tactics and puzzles, or even in your own games, look for checks, captures, and threats in that order. Now, we already know that these are checkmate in 2 problems, if I haven't told you already. So that gives you a hint, and I set the rating between 500 and 1500 level. If I made them, too difficult, then it would be maybe working on a little more of calculation instead of pattern recognition. But either way, black's turn to move. What do you think black should do in this position? And remember to look for checks first. So, what pieces can check the king here? It looks like the bishop can check. And when that bishop moves, we'll have a discovered check as well. So, try and solve this problem. Pause the video at any time if you need more time to think. If not, here we go. All right. Whenever you have a possibility of a check, you have to see what the king will do in response. They can either capture the checking piece, block the checking piece, or run. Now, an exception to that is if there is a double check. So here we have the queen lined up on the king, and if we move the bishop here, it'll be a double discovered check on that king. And when 2 pieces are checking the king at once, then your options are very limited. The only thing you can do is run, because you can't block or capture 2 pieces at once. So the king must run, and the only option is to run here, and then the queen will be able to deliver a mate on the square here on E1 where the king is now. All right, here we go. Double discovered check and mate. Nice little pattern there. Hopefully if you become familiar with that pattern, sometime you might be able to use it in one of your own games. All right, on to the next problem here. A bishop that was under attack just dropped back and is aiming at the pawn. What can black do here? All right. Well, look for the checking moves first. Obviously this pawn could move forward delivering a check, but it could be captured by the bishop here. So maybe we have something better. What else can check? Well, hopefully that will give you the answer to solving this one. Look what this rook can do here. So, and also when you look at a checking move like this rook moving to h3 with check, you want to make sure that there's a follow-up. You don't want to just check a king because you can, because they might just run away and escape. But here it looks like we have a good follow-up, because once the rook moves to h3 delivering check, it'll be protected by the pawn here. And this bishop is cutting off the diagonal here. The king will be forced to run here. And then our rook can follow up with mate on h1. and the king cannot escape because his own bishop will be preventing that. So try and figure that out in your head. And if you're doing puzzles, whether they're in on the computer like this is chess.com that I'm using. You can use Lee Chess as well. I believe may have plenty of puzzles, and there's probably many other places you can go. Books as well. Try to do as much of the puzzle in your head as possible. So check and mate, a great pattern here with bishop and rook working together. All right, on to the next problem. We just had a capture here. So what now? We're trying to go for a check here. Okay. Well, this one should be fairly simple. Hopefully you found the answer to this one. And just remember to look for checks first. And if you do that, hopefully you'll find that there aren't many checks available. In fact, it looks like there's just one. So if we move that bishop here, delivering a check, the king can do what? It can capture. That's one of the options, capture with the knight. And there's no way to block, and the king cannot run because the queen will be covering these squares here. So once that knight captures our bishop, the queen will be able to deliver a mate here on g7, backed up by the pawn. So try and figure that out in your head. Hopefully it's not too difficult for you, especially beginners. So check, capture, and mate. So that bishop sacrificed itself and cleared the way for the queen to deliver the mate, backed up by this pawn here. All right, on to the next one. What was that? A capture? So we need to look at checks first. And if we do that, hopefully you will find the answer here. A knight and queen combo make a strong attacking pair here. Because the queen can move like a bishop or a rook, or a king, but a queen cannot move like the knight here, and vice versa. So they complement one another. All right, and we're also going to see a great pattern here. If we look for checks, obviously we don't want to go here, or the king or pawn can capture the queen. So if we go here, the king has room to run. We could capture here, but then, perhaps the queen could block. So maybe we have something more forcing. Hopefully you found this move, placing the queen on e6 with check. And this brings up a great pattern that I've mentioned before in these videos, where whenever the queen is protected and attacks the king from one of the corner squares around the king, here, here, or here, once the queen moves there, it will attack the diagonal through the center and the two sides. And the only escape, the only squares the king can run to are here and here. So once again, once the queen goes here and is protected, here and here are the only squares that the king can run to, and of course the pawn is blocking it, so the king will be forced to go here. So queen check, king moves here, and then the queen will also be covering these areas around the king, and the knight can jump in there and deliver the mate. So, try and solve that in your head. Hopefully you got it, especially the beginners out there. So check and mate. All right, I'll try and speed this up a little bit if we're going to get 20 problems in today. All right, next problem, a capture here, and what do we have available? Well, look for those checks first. And if we do that, hopefully you will find this back rank weakness here. So, the only check we have is either the bishop, but then the king could capture, or the queen. So that queen move looks pretty strong because it is a forcing move. So we deliver check. The only thing that can be done is to block with the queen, but now that queen is pinned, and it will allow us to capture and deliver checkmate here with the bishop. So check and mate, because that queen is pinned and cannot capture the bishop. It's pinned by the queen to the king. And the king cannot capture, of course, because the queen is protecting that bishop. All right, next problem. We just had a knight capture, but now it's our turn. How do we deliver the winning mate in 2 here? So look at those checks first, and hopefully that will help you solve this. Okay, not many checks available. In fact, there is only one. So we sacrifice the queen. The bishop cuts off the king from running to these 2 squares. So once the king captures, we deliver a mate with the rook here. So capture and the mate. Great pattern there. We notice how the bishop is preventing the king from running here. And the queen lured the king onto that H-file where the rook can deliver the mate. All right, queen is just captured. It's our turn. We have 3 pieces hovering around the king. And it usually takes about 3 pieces to deliver a checkmate, unless there are different circumstances, like a cramped position around the king where it's blocked in. But on average, usually 3 pieces can do the job. We just have to figure out how to go about it here. All right. Well, might be a little tricky here, and we have to watch out that white is threatening a back rank mate in 1 here. So because of that, we need to deliver some checks here. Okay. Well, hopefully you figured this one out. If you look at all the checks available, you'll find that one of them is the winning move that leads to mate in 2. So, if we go here, the king can capture the rook there. So we don't want to do that. The knight cannot deliver check, so that leaves the queen. If we go here, rook will capture, so that leads us to the winning move. So we're going to go here, check. Remember, when a king is being attacked, he can only capture the attacker, block, or run, and sometimes he can't even do all 3 of those. So we're delivering that check. The rook is preventing the king from running. So the only option available, being that the queen cannot be captured there, is to block. And then that will allow us to capture that rook with mate. So check and capture with mate. All right, next problem. We just had a rook battery here, dropping the first rook down and pinning it to our king. And threat of checkmate in 1 here. Okay, so we have to act quickly. And that's exactly what we will do here. Look for those checks first, as always. Of course, we can't move the rook because it's pinned, and that would just allow our king to capture. So the knight is helping, and once again, we have 3 pieces. The knight covering F7, and the rook lining up on the king, and the queen hovering around. So, looking at checks, we could go here, delivering a check, forcing the king onto the H file, and then we can capture here with a mate on G7. So check and mate. All right, I hope you're doing well so far. Let's move on to the next one. We're almost halfway done. A rook has moved up to our 7th rank, usually a dangerous thing if you let a rook get onto the your 2nd rank or your opponent's 2nd rank if you get one of your rooks up there. So, all right. Well, we have a interesting checkmate here. A nice little pattern. Now, the first thing you want to notice is that once again, it's going to take about 3 pieces to deliver this checkmate. So if we go here, delivering check with the first rook, it's not mate because that bishop can capture. But then once it does, we've unleashed our bishop to deliver a mate. So here we go. Check, capture, and mate. Because the king is trapped by his own pieces. There's no way to block or capture that bishop, and the king can't run. All right, halfway there. After this problem, the king has moved up, attacking our unprotected rook. What can we do? Well, nice pattern here. And here, this is an example of, we only have 2 pieces, but if you include this pawn, that is the 3rd piece that will help deliver this checkmate. So that's a hint. These 3 pieces, notice how the bishop is lining up there. All right, so what we want to do, pause the video if you need to look at it any further, but if not, we'll press forward, delivering a discovered check and at the same time protecting our rook, which prevents the king from running, and the pawn will prevent the king from running to C7. And the only way to delay the mate is to block with the rook, but then we're going to just capture. So, discovered check, block, and capture for the mate. All right, halfway there. Try and get 10 more in. Here we go. Knight centralizing up to E5. So, what can we do? All right, great pattern here. And in this case, we only need 2 pieces for the win. Notice that, we have a queen hovering around, able to deliver check at 2 different squares. But we have this bishop aimed at the king. And that's something that's quite valuable to have, is when you can start lining your pieces up on less valuable pieces like this bishop, lining it up on the more valuable pieces like king, queen, or rook even, and it looks like, oh, there's a pawn blocking, but not for long, because we're going to capture, forcing the king into the corner, and now there's a back rank mate weakness. Or is there? Okay, I thought that we could go there, but there's a battery here. So, that changes things. All right, now if we go here, and the king runs into the corner, and we try and go here, the queen can just block and be backed up by the bishop. So we might have to find a different way forward here. Let's see. Can we sacrifice the queen here? The king could just capture. I don't see a good follow-up. So, all right, am I missing something? If we go here with the queen, maybe the bishop has to capture first with check. All right. And we have to deliver checks because this queen is threatening to capture here and check us, backed up by the knight. Okay, so if we go here, the king has to run into the corner. Oh, and then we have a bishop that, okay, what am I thinking? We can just go here and deliver the mate. All right, there we go. And we go this way instead of that way. All right. The nice pattern of bishop and queen battery here. Hopefully you found that more efficiently than I did there. So on to the next problem. All right. Queen has pressed forward, threatening check and mate. Well, mate here, I guess, because the king would run into the corner. So we need to act immediately here. How do we do that? Well, look for the checks first. The only one available is to sacrifice the queen, and that should give you the answer. Once the king is forced to capture, well then we don't want to check with that rook, of course, but this rook does prevent the king from running while we move the other rook up to deliver the back rank mate. So capture and mate. Great little pattern there. You always have to look out for back rank weaknesses, not only your opponent but your own as well, to prevent any nasty surprises. All right, next problem. The rook is defending this pawn, which is under attack by our rook. So we probably don't want to check there because the rook will just capture us. What other checks do we have? Well, we have, once again, a bishop lined up on the king here. The queen could deliver a check as well. So let's take a closer look at that. If we capture here, the rook is pinning this pawn and preventing the recapture. So we can use that to our advantage. All right. Well, we should probably lead with the queen because then maybe we can deliver a mate afterwards. And that looks to be the way to go. So solve that in your head or whatever you have to do. If you're ready, here we go. We're going to capture here, drive the king back, and then deliver a mate on h2. So capture and mate. All right, next problem. The queen has just dropped back here to defend the rook that's under attack by our queen. But we have more than one way to deliver a check. Actually, there's many. The queen could go here, 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 or here. But in all of those, the queen would be recaptured. So maybe we need to deliver check with our other available piece, and that is the bishop. And that also allows the queen to prevent the king from running up here to the second rank. So we're going to capture, delivering check. The king will be forced to move here, and then we can deliver mate. So check and mate. Nice little bishop and queen combo there. All right, pawn is pushing forward, running towards the promotion square. What can we do here to deliver a mate? All right. Well, we see that the rook is doing a good job of preventing the king from moving to quite a few squares, and then this pawn is helping as well. So the king is almost in a stalemated position. It can only run to here. And when you get your opponent's king in that kind of stalemated or almost stalemated position, that's when you definitely want to look for threatening checks that can trap the king. So the obvious check, if the rook checks, the king can just capture. So maybe that's not so good. We have this pawn check, forcing the king to run up here to the only square available. And then we can deliver a checkmate with the rook by moving here. So here we go. Check and mate. Interesting little pattern where pawns and rook trap the king in the middle. And I've won games like that before where your pawns and one or two rooks work together and trap the enemy king out in the open. All right, 5 more to go. Here we go. Knight has dropped back, trapping our rook here. So, what can we do? All right. Look for the back rank weakness here. And definitely look for checks first, as always, because they are the most threatening. So what checks do we have? If you look at that, you'll see that there's really only one check that can be delivered, and that's to capture the bishop here. And now the only move available is for the king to recapture. So how do you follow that up? Well, hopefully you found the winning move by bringing the rook up to the back rank. So check and mate. All right, 4 more to go. Bishop has just moved up, attacking our queen. So what do we have? Look for those checks first. Now, there is a possibility of just moving here, delivering a check. And then the only place the king can go is here, and then we could deliver a mate. Or here, and we also deliver a mate on a4. So that looks to be the way to go. Check and mate here. All right, 3 more. I hope you're doing well. Rook has just moved over, attacking our queen, preventing a mate in 1 here. So we have to find another way forward here. All right. Well, we have the 3 pieces that are usually required to checkmate an opponent's king. Knight, queen, and bishop hovering around our opponent's king. But they do have some defenses. This pawn, rook, and queen. So what can we do? Look for the checks first. If we capture here, the king can just recapture, and I don't see a good follow-up. If the queen goes here, rook captures. All right. We'll have to do this a different way, and hopefully you found it. Pause the video if you need more time. If not, here we go. We're going to capture here. Now, by going here, we not only check the king, but we cover a lot of squares around the king. Here, here, and here, and the knight covers that one. So, once a king is being attacked, what are the options? Capture. We can't capture the queen. Block or run. The king won't be able to run, and we'll have to block with their queen, and then we can just capture that queen with a mate. So check, and mate. All right, the final two problems. A pawn is on the run here with another pawn. They're pushing forward, getting ready to promote. What do we do? Well, if we look for checks, we see that we have a rook check here on the back rank. The king only has one move, and that's to run. Oh, and then... okay, then this is where it gets a little tricky. So we're going to go up here, deliver a check. The king will be forced to run here. Now, what do we do next? Do we try and promote the pawn with check? Or is there something better? Well, hopefully you found the winning move, that the rook will swing over, deliver check here, and prevent the king from running along with our own king. So, check and mate here. So a little, once again, three pieces, king, pawn, and rook working together to mate that king. The final problem. Rook is attacking our rook, but hopefully you've solved this one fairly quickly. There is a weakness here on the second rank, or the 7th rank. I guess our 7th rank, our opponent's 2nd rank. And look for those checks first. Obviously we don't want to check by capturing their rook, or the queen will recapture. We don't want to capture here, or the king can take our rook. But our queen has a very powerful move. Queen to f2, driving the king to the h-file, and then we can deliver mate by capturing on g2 here. So check and mate. All right, I hope you did well on all 20 of those. And remember, go over puzzles like this. You can go back through this video, or you can find your own puzzles and go through them nice and slow the first time, and then revisit them, going over them multiple times. That way you remember a lot more, and you're able to help use those patterns in your own games. All right, feel free to leave any comments. As always, I love hearing from viewers and subscribers. Also, like and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and have a super chess day.